Hello and welcome to the Navy Blue Corner. I'm Ian, and with the mid-season draft just a day away, I'm here to analyse Carlton's list needs and present a few potential candidates that could be selected by Carlton on the night. Now, firstly, Carlton have two list spots available, meaning they can take two players in the mid-season draft. However, Mick Agresta announced on the Gettable podcast with Riley Beveridge and Cal Toomey that we're only going to be using one selection due to a lack of list spots at year's end with heavy competition for those spots. He added that Carlton in the mid-season draft are aiming to draft for the long term rather than just a short-term fix. They don't want to bring in someone that at season's end we're just going to delist. They want them to be around for at least the next few years. And all of that is going to mean that our one selection on the night in the mid-season draft for 2024 will be at pick 11. So let's examine our current list needs and take a little bit of a look at a few potential players at each position. Now, for me, our biggest deficiency at the moment, primarily due to the injuries of Jack Martin and Jack Silvani, is that mid-sized goal-kicking forward, that kind of third option inside 50. This is probably one of the harder positions, I think, to fill in the mid-season draft, really due to that gap in quality between AFL and those state league players, those kind of almost match winners, guys that can really kick goals that aren't just, over 190 centimeters. They're hard to find. And even with that being said, I think it is possible to find a few hidden gems out there. So let's have a look at a few that could potentially fill this list void. Firstly, this is Will McLaughlin, my favorite out of the two options. He's 19 years old, 185 centimeters. As a general forward, like we said, from the Geelong Falcons. He's hit 26 goals this year, 12 behinds in the first 6 games of the Coates Talent League. He's actually leading the goal kicking as well, which is really impressive for him. Obviously, an overager that has stayed in the under-18 competition, but sometimes these players do take a little bit more time to develop. We've seen it happen before. Still incredibly young and has a high ceiling to go, but it's great to see him finally offering and showing what he can actually do. He's had 2 games, out of those 26 goals that he has kicked, 2 games where he's kicked 6 goals in them and 2 games where he's kicked at least 5. So he's not only just putting it on the scoreboard, in totality, he's having big standout games and impressing. So absolutely loving that from Will. He's averaging 12 disposals per game and 5 marks. So he really is that third option inside forward 50. He's not just a small crumbing forward. He's someone that can move around, cause some danger, and hit the scoreboard as well. So really like what I'm seeing from Will. I do hope he gets picked up somewhere. Hopefully it is at Carlton if we look to address that need. As far as whether he can play straight away, was a tough question to answer. I think with these mid-sized, smaller forwards, there's a lot more opportunity for them to come in and make some sort of impact compared to, a midfielder that needs to be able to put on some size and get ready to play with those adults. But I think that small, medium-sized forward, it's a decent spot to come in. And while I would say he's definitely more of a long-term prospect, similarly to, I guess, your Ashton Moyer that we already have on the list, someone that you can kind of have them in the VFL, take a few years before we do need to see them, which is maybe not an ideal scenario given the outs that we have right now. And this is a bit more of we almost want someone that could slot into the best 22 at this stage because we don't have anyone else. But in saying that, there's any chance that he could do it straight away, whether it is at Carlton or another team. You just never know, but definitely on a bit more of that developing side rather than your plug-and-play 26-year-old. Definitely. The other option looking at the moment, very similar in age, it is Oscar Smart, 18 years old, 180 centimeters, bit more of a high half forward than that medium-sized forward. Currently playing in Essendon's VFL team. He has kicked 6 goals, 4 behinds in 6 games. Currently in the VFL. He's also averaging 8.7 disposals and 1.8 marks per game. Look, he doesn't find a lot of the footy playing that more high half forward role, which can be even harder to try to get productive numbers in the VFL compared to the AFL. We know that it's sort of no man's land playing high half forward. But I think the big thing that I'm excited about Oscar Smart is what he does when he has the ball is that kind of exciting point. Maybe you can compare him a little bit to your David Cunningham in the sense that he doesn't get a lot of it, but when he does, it looks good, and he makes things happen. He's got plenty of speed, plenty of flair with ball in hand, always seems to hit the scoreboard when he's around it, super athletic, and he does play a little bit higher and above his height, which is good to see. He's got that aerial ability, always flying for marks, which when you are only 180 centimeters and you want to be a bit more of that mid-size forward as well, I think that's going to hold you in good stead. That, he's almost Andrew Walker-esque in the sense of wanting to fly at everything, any chance he gets, and he does it well. He's not just flying for no reason. He's pretty smart and calculated with that. But it's his productivity and overall polish that probably lets him down at times. But there is still plenty to work with, and his attributes are definitely something we lack currently in our squad. Even though he's 18, turning 19 this year, he probably is closer to being able to play and line up in the AFL side, given his role, as I mentioned, with a guy like a Will McLachlan. But I'd say he's closer because he is playing in the VFL right now. He's playing against adults. He knows what that's like, and he's being able to produce some decent numbers doing so. He is just going to be someone that will need that time to develop. So both kind of do fit that bill in the sense that we wouldn't just be drafting them for now. It's someone we can see on our list, keeping to develop in the next few years and hopefully carve out a decent career. Those are basically the best options I've found in that small mid-forward option. Let me know what you think of them in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening in audio form, head over to the socials at Navy Blue Corner. Very interested to hear your thoughts on everyone that I've suggested. And if there's anyone that you really want us to select, drop them in the comments below on YouTube. And again, head over to the socials and let us know what you're thinking. Taking a look, however, at the rest of the list, really isn't any other glaring holes as far as best 22 players are concerned. For me, everything else would be simply trying to cover more of a depth issue or an area that, due to current injuries, we're lacking a lot there. And one of those, particularly with our depth, is the midfield. We've got so many great A-graders in there, but when we are without one of Walsh or Chera, we really don't have that next perfect fix, that fit that can come in and play that role. Kennedy and Hewitt, little too similar, bit more of that inside grunt player. We need to find better explosiveness and movement around stoppages. It's that speed around the ball that we kind of lack right now. So I'm going to take a look at a couple of options that can hopefully jump in straight away for us. Now, the first man has been one of the only two players really linked with Carlton in the mid-season draft. It is, you'll probably heard of his name before, used to play for Richmond. It is Riley Collier-Dawkins. He's now 24 years old, a few years out of the system after being delisted by Richmond. 193 centimeters, now plying his trade in at Williamstown in the VFL. As I said, former Richmond Tigers player. He played 11 games there. Currently, he's averaging 23.6 disposals in 8 games and 5.3 tackles. He is a little bit more towards that inside midfielder than the speedy outside player. But when I think of Riley Collier-Dawkins, and particularly what he's done so far this year in the VFL, he's really that explosive burst from stoppage style player. I probably highlight him and compare him, if I can, towards a bit more of that Dow replacement that we didn't really bring in anyone to cover. It was more of a, as far as Carlton's list is concerned, we've got Jack Carroll. He's the next one as far as age is concerned to take over that midfield. But profile-wise, we have not really replaced Paddy Dow, and numbers-wise, we definitely haven't. So I think this is an area we really should be looking at, and I think he would come in straight away and play above Carroll if you're having him in the depth chart there. Little bit taller, little bit of a bigger body. Think he's really come on and started to develop in the last few years in the VFL. And honestly, I'm really surprised that Richmond delisted him. He's someone I thought probably deserved a little bit more of a run on an AFL list, and would not surprise me if we do pick him up because he has been linked. Now, the other one almost excites me even more because he's a player that's been not necessarily linked to us, but someone linked to be selected in the mid-season draft. And this is someone who I watched closely in his draft year, and I was so surprised that he went undrafted. He was one of those favorite players you get when you do watch a draft class, not necessarily because he's your top 10 or he's the best player in the draft, but he just has a few attributes that you just love watching him play, and that is Kobe Ryan. 20 years of age, 185 centimeters. He's a midfielder. He can play a little bit halfback as well, be a bit more of that guy moving the ball through the defensive half on turnover. Currently playing for West Adelaide. As I said, he went undrafted, but I just really love this guy. So surprised he wasn't picked up. Averaging 24.1 disposals this season from 7 games. Disposal efficiency is at 78%, averaging 9.4 tackles, 6.6 clearances, and a goal a game, having scored obviously 7 goals in 7 games. And yeah, he's a player that from when I saw him in his under 18 year, he's just someone that finds the football. He's always around it. He always is in the right position, and he can show off his leg speed as well. Probably struggled a little bit with his size in that under 18 level, which is maybe why he didn't get drafted. He was quite slight, and probably the other disappointing part of his game is his production can sometimes lack, and it's not to say he's not finding the football. He's doing that in spades, but he's not doing a lot with them. So he isn't creating a lot, which is sometimes that disappointing component. He's since been really, really impressive, showing his burst of pace and his attack on the footy. And look, whether we pick him up or not, I just want someone to take a chance on him, because I think he's that kind of player that he can be a bit of a depth play. He can be someone that slowly can develop and get on an AFL list. And in a few years, he's going to be that extra puzzle piece for teams that have all those inside balls. All of a sudden, they've got someone with a bit of speed, a bit of dash outside of those stoppages. And that's what I really like from Kobe. Now, the last position on the field that I wanted to take a look at and discuss is key forward. I think it's an obvious depth issue for us. We know the quality of Curnow and Mackay, obviously, but we don't really have another option. And if, God forbid, one of those guys does go down, right now, it'd probably be deconing or a developing and really not AFL-ready Harry Lemmy. So do we need someone else who is a bit further along in their development than Harry Lemmy? In a perfect world, I would say yes. So let's take a look at a few options in this department. Now, one that excites me is a Collingwood VFL listed player. It is Jack Hutchinson. Hasn't been linked to us, but has been linked to be taken in the mid-season draft. 22 years of age, 190 centimeters. So he is a little bit smaller. He doesn't necessarily play as your maybe number 1 or 2 key forward. Bit more of that third tall, which is something that we've probably floated a little bit with DeConing being there. We saw us try it with Gov a fair few years ago, and maybe he could take over that Jack Martin role, being that marking target inside 50 rather than someone who's a little bit more athletic and more towards that small forward vein that I would say Jack Martin is. He's definitely smaller than he is tall, whereas Jack is the opposite of that. And as I said, currently playing for Collingwood's VFL team. And he's been really impressive this season. He's kicked 11 goals, 6 in over 7 games, averaging 4.8 marks per game. And the kind of player he is, he just loves to mark. He's so great above his head, flies at absolutely everything and moves really well. So that is something that I could see him working in Carlton's lineup at this stage, trying to take a little bit of pressure off Curnow and Mackay, be another marking option inside 50. We have been linked to a guy like Will Hayward. I feel like Jack Hutchinson is a little more similar to him. So I really do like the option of bringing in a guy like that. And it's definitely, out of probably all the players that I've listed, apart from Collier Dawkins, he's the most AFL ready, I would suggest, out of all of those. Now, the last player that I'm going to mention is, look, he's probably going to be the guy that we end up selecting. He's been the most linked, and that is because he's currently away in our VFL team. It is Liam McMahon. He's a key forward and he was on Collingwood's list for a little bit there. Now he's on our VFL squad. So we've probably seen him better than anyone else, and we clearly know what kind of person he is. And I would believe that would go a long way on top of his skill set, us being able to know those little more insights rather than selecting someone that you've maybe had one interview with and just seen a few games of football. We know this guy inside and out. So looking at his season this year so far, 17 goals, 6 in 7 games. And with that, he's kicked at least 2 goals in each game, which is really impressive. He's the 5th highest goal scorer in the VFL so far. He's averaging 5.4 marks. He's been the real standout in our VFL team right now. And I would say he's definitely someone that is really ready to go if we do need. But the good part of this is we've got 2 of the best key forwards in the game right now. So he's not someone we should need this season. It's someone that, still being quite young, has plenty of time to develop, and we can just let him stay in that VFL team. Him and Harry Lemmy can keep developing, and if we need to call on them, I would definitely feel a lot more confident to bring in Liam than I would Harry Lemmy right now. So I think it's a smart option given the depth chart and the lack of height that we do have, if, again, God forbid, there is an injury to any of our key tools. So that's going to wrap this one up. Those are the players that I've got as a few suggestions for Carlton taking, given the list needs, given what Mick Agresta has said as far as taking someone as a little bit more of a long-term option than just a stopgap. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Who do you want us to take? Is there a player I haven't mentioned that you're excited about Carlton potentially taking? Let us know in the comments. If you're listening in audio form, hit us up on the socials at Navy Blue Corner. Really keen to start a bit of a discussion in the comments and hear your thoughts on everything covered. But that's going to wrap this one up. Up the bloody baggers. See you guys next time.